All of this was interspersed with real-life experiences of everyone in the class, sometimes opening our eyes to things we had not seen before, other times giving voice to what we knew to be true deep inside of ourselves, but things we had not yet clearly articulated in a society where adherence to the status quo ethical norms was expected. For 2 intense weeks, Katie worked constantly to support us and to help us support one another, empowering us and calling us forth into this countercultural work of standing for justice, making right choices, taking correct action, and teaching others what we knew to be true, always reminding us we had found new allies along the way during these 2 weeks. This powerful, challenging, life-giving course remains one of the most memorable courses I've taken in my formal academic education and continues to remind me to choose for justice, however hard that may be, certain that even if the road is lonely, I will not be alone. So following justice, loving Jesus, doing the right thing, may also require us to color outside the lines if the picture is going to turn out the way it should, the way God intends. You see, Jesus' call to discipleship is not a call to follow the rules, nor to accept every societal standard as good and right and just, nor to conform to unexamined traditional theology of the past, nor even the emerging theology of the present. But then, neither is Jesus' call to discipleship unrestrained, permissive freedom to do whatever we want, unbound by the impact of our choices and actions on others, on the community, and on the global village. Nor is life a case of classic situation ethics, like those philosophical dilemmas many of us debated ad nauseum in those late-night conversations with our college buds, as we enthusiastically sparred the night away, looking at every angle and considering every perspective, but seldom coming up with either a conclusive answer or any real way forward. Because you see, the stakes are higher now, living in the real world, where decisions have to be made, choices have to be acted upon, action plans have to be formulated, and the results are going to have real-life impact on real-life people. In calling us to be disciples, Jesus is asking of us something much more complex and challenging than we usually imagine. In Matthew's gospel, this deep understanding of radical discipleship places heavy responsibility on any of us who would follow Jesus. Jesus expects the words, the choices, the actions of disciples to come from the transformation that is happening within their very own lives, the transformation happening deep within our very own lives. And Jesus leads disciples down a path toward greater, more excessive justice than merely living what most consider a good and right life. Jesus and his teachings look far beyond a surface understanding of Scripture, far beyond tipping our hat to a few rules. Jesus takes us to God's vision for all humankind, and God's message is that we cannot claim the title of Christian and act in ways that oppress others. If we are going to follow the Jesus way in our own time, we have to live into God's vision for all humanity, bringing God's vision of justice and liberation to reality in our midst. And Jesus left no absolute rules on how we should do this. We have to embrace the uncertainty of living without hard, fast rules. We have to discern God's purposes as we journey forward in the specific times and places and circumstances of our lives, knowing what is required of us at any given moment is neither as easy nor as simple as following a clearly prescribed way. We have to make each specific choice, do each concrete act in a particular place where we live, in ways that God's vision, God's universal vision of liberation and justice for all humanity, and indeed for all creation, advances just a little bit further, one choice, one act at a time. Living among disciples for a time, Jesus modeled justice and righteousness, then left them to decide what is appropriate and what is inappropriate as they are carried on Jesus' ministry. And that's pretty much where those of us who follow Jesus find ourselves today, trying to figure out where Jesus is leading, not by way of a crisp, clear map, handed to us before we set out down a clearly marked trail. Following Jesus is more like that complicated process of discovering the trail on the way, step by step, through an unmarked, uncertain place, always on alert, watching, listening for dangers, for signs, for directions, from persons and places yet to be discovered, as the ongoing movement of spirit moves in our own lives. Jesus is calling us to be God's moral agents in the world, both as compassion doers and justice fighters, discovering the right path as we move along. To go the distance with Jesus as moral agents in our world, we need constant communication, not only with the divine, but also with one another in communal dialogue. And this dialogue is most effective in communities made up of persons with diverse perspectives, experiences, and cultural backgrounds, who are living in genuine community together, discerning God's purposes. Fort Street's diversity, which needs to keep growing, is one reason this church is uniquely poised to be a moral agent in Detroit, a transforming force, changing a city in need of transformation. As we embrace diversity more fully, letting the richness of genuine diverse community teach us what we need to know, we will be better informed and stronger, wiser and more daring justice fighters, giving voice to the unheard, shining light on the unseen, discovering ourselves and Detroit transformed into creative community. When you're traveling down a way without a clear map to the end point, a way that keeps changing with the times, a way full of twists and turns, it's indeed good to have companions who see things you cannot see, hear things you cannot hear, people who watch and listen with you as together you forge the trail. It's not always comfortable to be countercultural, coloring outside the lines. But when you're painting on the canvas of life that God has given to us and put into our care, it's good to have co-creators, co-artists helping you to consider color and shape and style, discerning the times when sticking to standard structure and form is a good thing, maybe even crucial, and when coloring outside the lines, perhaps way outside the lines, is the only right way to go.